good angle for us. Hold her a minute.
Okay, the recording is started.
Okay, great. Welcome again to the Needham Zoning Board. I'm Howard Goldman, I'm acting chair today. And we're going to go through our agenda. It's been modified a little bit. There's been some continuances. We'll get to that in a few moments. First, we'll get to the minutes. The other board members, have you had a chance to read the minutes?
I have.
Okay, would you entertain a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
Okay, second that?
Second.
Okay, all in favor of approving the minutes?
Aye.
Okay, I as well, and the minutes are approved. Okay. So the first item tonight is 37 Mosley Avenue. And George Gunter, good evening.
Good evening.
Welcome. And tell us what's on your mind.
All right, so George Junta Jr. appearing on behalf of Saybrook Construction, the applicant for 37 Mosley, and you should have a letter requesting a continuance of this.
Yes.
We had some plans, we had the plans tweaked in response to comments from the last hearing. Unfortunately, those weren't ready as quickly as I would have liked or hoped. So we turned those in, and then we reached out to the neighbors and asked about availability for meeting. My client suggested some dates and times. Unfortunately, none of those dates and times worked for anybody in the neighborhood. And at least one, and I think maybe two neighbors suggested that, you know, if you really want to talk with us, you might want to continue this and have some conversations. Absolutely agree, and that's the whole point of reaching out to the neighborhood. So we've asked to continue so that we can then have the opportunity to meet with them and have some further discussions.
Yeah, I think that makes good sense. I thought that the way the meeting ended last month, as I recall, there was a number of neighbors who had concerns. And it didn't seem like your client had spent much time, if any, talking with them in advance. So I think that's a great idea to continue. Looking for 1 month, George?
Yes.
Okay. So I guess we need a motion to, is there a motion to continue this for 1 month?
So moved.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
Okay, so George, and we'll see you and your client next month, hopefully, and we'll put you in for, I guess, 7:30, does that make sense?
The next meeting is going to be on Wednesday, November 20th at 7:30 here in the Charles River Room.
Okay.
Okay, and so definitely encourage you, George, to meet with the client. I did notice that, that the conservation had approved, you made a modification, but you're seeking a variance, which is a fairly difficult standard, and we have to make sure it's not a self-imposed financial hardship that you're seeking. So we're excited that you're meeting conscientiously with the neighbors to try to get some resolution. Okay, thank you, nice to see you. All right, the second order of business. The second order of business is the 1132 Highland Avenue Total Eclipse Dance Studio. And this is a application for a special permit, good evening, to allow a private school use under sections 321 and to waive strict adherence to the number of required parking in the parking plan and design under the various sections of 51115 and 512 and 513. And this is a private dance studio in the Christ Episcopal Church in the single residence B district. Good evening, nice to see you all.
Thank you. Good evening. Again, George Junta Jr. on behalf of the applicant, and with me this evening is Alicia Santa Maria and Gemma Joyce. They are the mother-daughter team that owns and
wow, okay.
operates Total Eclipse Dance Studio.
Excellent.
All right, so as indicated, this is the Christ Episcopal Church at 1132 Highland Avenue. It's parcel 44 on Assessor's Map 226. It's a rather large lot with 48,616 square feet of area, over 313 feet of frontage on Highland Ave, and also 209 feet of frontage on Rosemary. So in case you didn't put two and two together, this is the church that's at the corner of Rosemary and Highland, sort of across, kitty corner across from the high school.
Right in the library, yes, okay.
Yep. So there's an existing church building that appears to have been built in or around 1937, according to the assessor's records. It's occupied obviously by the church, but in addition, they have other users in the building, which include Needham ACE, which is an after-school program that the board previously approved and issued a decision for, as well as Total Eclipse, who's actually been in the building since 2018, which I'll get to in a minute.
2018, okay.
Yep. So as I mentioned, this is a mother-daughter team that owns and operates Total Eclipse. It's a full dance studio that offers classes primarily to children, but also to adults. So it's a full range of classes available. We have two people who have strong connections to Needham. Alicia lives in Needham now and graduated from Needham High School, and Gemma graduated from Needham High School and grew up in Needham and was actually the captain of the varsity dance team at Needham High. So strong Needham roots here, representing. So they offer, as I said, a range of classes, recreational and performance classes. Several different styles are offered. And basically, they use primarily the lower level of the church, a section sort of at the end of the lower level. Now, as I mentioned, they've been there since 2018. When they first went in, apparently nobody realized that they needed any sort of relief because, you know, they are a quasi-educational, I mean, it's a private school is the special permit, and they're operating in a Dover Amendment building, which is occupied by other Dover Amendment uses. So apparently it never, you know, neither the church nor Alicia or Gemma, they didn't realize that they needed a permit. But recently they had the opportunity to take over a small amount of additional space just to have a little bit of breathing room in the lower level there. And when they went to the building department to talk to them about it, the building department essentially said, hey, wait a minute, who are you? You've been there since 2018. Where's your, where's the record of your use? So they realized that they needed to get a special permit. So here we are, asking for that special permit. The total amount of space that they occupy, by the way, on the lower level is about 5,609 square feet, but that's divided amongst rooms that have a number of different uses, including like a little office room, break room, and so on. The key thing to know is that at any given time, there is a maximum of 40 students that will be on site.
40?
40, yep, that's the maximum. Now, if you actually look at their class run now, they don't have a single class that goes up that high, one class that goes up that high, but that's the maximum that you would ever see there. Classes are generally offered primarily weekday afternoons and on Saturdays. On weekday afternoons, they run roughly between 3 o'clock in the afternoon to 9:30 in the evening. On Saturdays, they run roughly 9 a.m. to 4:45 p.m. During the summer, that changes. You know, that's the schedule during the regular school year. During the summer, it changes, and they offer either classes one evening a week or a 2-week sort of intensive camp for preschoolers. In any event, during the summer, you have a maximum of 20 students. So the use itself is not a particularly difficult one. It's allowed by special permit. There are no particular requirements that attach to that, so that's something that's well within the discretion of the board to grant. However, this use also, in this location, also requires a parking waiver. To refresh, because Needham ACE came in not that long ago, so I think at least some of you were on that hearing. You may recall that the Christ Episcopal Church owns the parking lot across the street, which has 85 parking spaces. However, they lease 65 of those spaces to the town of Needham. So of the 85 in that parking lot, only 20 are available for the various users of the building. In addition, there's like 4 parking spaces on the end of the building that I have to tell you, even somebody who grew up in Needham and lived in Needham for umpteen years, I never even knew those spaces were there because they're kind of hidden away, but those are reserved primarily for handicapped and church administration. And there's also 2 spaces or room for 2 spaces on the Rosemary side of the building where there's a little like asphalt pad, but they're not actually designated spaces, and those are also reserved for the church. So the Total Eclipse operation is limited to only the spaces across the street, the 20 spaces in the parking lot across the street, and then of course any on-street parking in the area.
Isn't it right across from the high school, that large parking lot?
So yes, it's, so Christ Episcopal is one corner, the library's on the other corner, high school's on this corner, and then Sudbury Farms is on the opposite corner.
But there's a massive parking lot. That's
The high school lot.
at the
The high school lot,
yeah.
right.
Is that open to the public and to these students?
So my understanding is it is somewhat open to the public, but from my perspective for zoning, we can't count it as actual spaces. But certainly, as I'll get into in a minute, there is the potential to use that for overflow. All right, so there's no category in the zoning bylaw specific to this type of use, right? There's a category for high schools, vocational schools, which isn't this use, even though it's a educational use. So really, then the question is, well, what category do you use? And I went with the category that's been used and applied for a number of different after-school type programs. It's been applied to tutoring programs, it's been applied to after-school care programs, and it's basically for uses that are where really it's a largely child enrollment and drop-off and pickup type of situation, which is exactly what this is. So using that standard, which is one parking space for every 5 students plus 1 space for employees.
So, I'm sorry, I hate to interrupt. So what's the reference that you're, in the bylaw that you're referring to?
So there's not an actual category in the bylaw. This is the same standard that was actually applied to Needham ACE when they went in. It's the same standard that's been applied to CodeWiz, the tutoring that's going in above 315 Chestnut, I think a few others.
Did we use it for Goldfish?
Goldfish, I think, had a slightly different one, but it was based on the same idea. It was applied to the dance studio that is actually in the church that's on the other end of Great Plain Avenue. I can't actually remember the denomination of that one.
11,678.
Something like that, yes. Yes, so this is a parking standard that's been used multiple times, and I would note also that I did speak with the building inspector, and he agreed that it was an appropriate standard to use, and I think in his letter, he said that he agreed with the analysis. So going back to, so the standard is 1 per 5 students and 1 per employee. When you run the numbers at a maximum of 40 students and a maximum of 4 staff, 3 instructors and 1 administrative person, you wind up with a maximum parking demand of 12 spaces. Now, 12 spaces is obviously less than the 20 in the lot across the street, but when the board approved Needham ACE for their after-school program, the board found that there were 7 spaces required for their use. So you add the 7 to the 12, and now we're up to 19. We're still within the 20, but that doesn't take into account any other use going on in the building, and of course, the church, as a part of its mission, has a number of different uses going on at all times, not the least of which is also worship, worship services. So for round figures and based on what I was able to find for their material and their social media presence, I would expect probably an average attendance for them of around 60, and if you assume 60 parishioners, that's a parking demand of
I'm sorry, you're talking about during the
church. This is during,
Sundays or
Yes.
non-Sundays?
so this is whenever there's worship services.
Okay.
Right? So the bylaw does have a requirement of that, of 1 parking space for 3 seats. When you run that number, that's 20 spaces for that. If you add it to the 19, that's a parking demand of 39, which is obviously in excess of the 20 available. So while most days there should be enough parking in the lot to cover both Needham ACE and the Total Eclipse Dance Studio, on paper, you have to count all the uses, and when you count all the uses, there's not enough. So on paper, we need a parking waiver. But in practice, we're very comfortable that there is enough spaces, because not only is there 20 spaces in that lot, but there are also on-street spaces available, a limited number of spaces on Rosemary Street, and then there are spaces available on Highland Avenue down by Sudbury Farms. So there are spaces in the vicinity available, the lot, on-street, and then, to the extent even those are all filled, that's where potentially people can park at the high school.
So
and
George,
again-
isn't this these are primarily children?
Yes,
Most don't drive legally.
Yes.
So there should be a drop-off format.
yes.
So how does that work with the drop-off? Is there some area, is there a process you can describe with the drop-off?
Yes, so the idea is parents are supposed to ideally park in the lot by the library.
Across the street, yeah.
Across the street, and then walk their children across, and then go back to the car and leave, right? That's the way it's supposed to work. However, admittedly, some parents will pull up on Rosemary, and although that's discouraged, it does happen, and then they park briefly and walk in. Now, one thing I will say is Alicia and Gemma have done a great job reaching out to the neighborhood, providing their contact information. In the event that there are any issues, for example, on Rosemary Street, then the neighbors know that they can get immediately in contact with one of the 2 of them and have the situation addressed.
Excellent.
But really, in practice, the 20 spaces in the parking lot by the library should be adequate to cover on a sort of a daily operational kind of basis. But on paper, we need the parking waiver because you need to count all the uses in the building.
So you also have a request for waiver of design.
Yes.
So what in particular is being waived?
So
Sought to be waived.
I was not able to find an established parking plan of that lot, but just by eyeballing it and the fact that I know that lot has been there since I was a little kid, I can guarantee you, at the very least, the front spaces on Highland Avenue, those are supposed to be set back, the setback distance, which is at least 10 feet, and they're not. They're right up on Highland Avenue. So I know right off the bat, at a minimum, they don't comply. But we're not changing it, we're not doing anything in the parking lot, we're not changing any of it. So basically, it's a waiver and recognition that it's an existing parking lot that's been there at least since the 70s, likely before that. And as a footnote to that, off-street parking design requirements didn't come into existence until the 80s. So that parking lot clearly predated the creation of the off-street parking design requirements.
Is that the lot where they have the Christmas trees? Yeah.
Yep, yeah, and that's in the back, that's actually in the back.
Behind the parking.
Okay, that doesn't impact or reduce parking.
That's right, right. Yeah, that's actually a lot that I believe is owned by the Masonic Lodge, the Norfolk A&M Lodge. And in fact, I think,
We're gonna be doing that tonight.
I was gonna say, I thought I saw them on the agenda for
Your
tonight. yeah.
colleagues will be here tonight to verify some of these statements. Okay. All right, see if any board members have comments or input?
No, the only question I have is, do you have a policy of requiring parents to walk the kids across either Rosemary or Highland? Or-
We do. Yeah.
So you make it clear
Yeah,
to them?
our children underaged 11
Yeah.
are required to have parents escort them in.
So that's a good point. So that's a good caveat. So there's a written policy
Yes,
to require parents to walk their kids across the street
yes.
in a safe manner. Because, you generate a lot of foot traffic across a fairly busy street, especially during, close to rush hour,
Yeah,
so
we-
that could be a danger
We require
zone.
them to use the controlled crossing. No
So you have a written
jaywalking.
policy for drop-off.
Yes,
Okay, excellent. And take out.
And in fact, as a part of the memo that I submitted, there was a sample letter
what I was looking at.
that they provide to parents, basically.
could I just chime in? I don't think I mentioned this to you before. Our lease agreement with the church, we do not use the space on Sunday mornings at all until noon. So that's when they have their work, if that matters.
But you're not open on Sunday. It's through Saturday, right?
We're not there on Sunday.
Yeah, but, yeah, we don't use it on Sunday anyway, but the church also, if we wanted to, our lease says no use on Sunday mornings, which is when they have their worship, and when
So-
they be using those spaces.
Oh, okay, so in other words, I think we're here today specific for hours of during the week, from 3 PM to 9:30 PM, and on Saturdays from 9 to 4:45, and you stick with that?
Yeah, those are we usually don't go that late during the week or that long on Saturday, that's as late as we would go.
And out of just curiosity, so that, what type of dance is it generally? Is it modern dance or jazz dance or all kinds of things?
Ballet, jazz, tap, hip-hop, lyrical, adults, kiddos, tutus, dance moms, boys.
Anything you could think of.
Just,
And that's great that you can do this together after all these years.
it is great,
That's
it is
fabulous.
great.
I don't want to speak for the board. Okay, so can we open this up to the public? Good evening, are you here tonight for this matter?
They are.
Oh, okay, okay, excellent, nice to see you. Would anyone like to step forward and say a few words or not? Oh, okay, so you're here to support, but don't necessarily want to say anything in particular? Okay, anyone here opposed to this? Okay, anyone?
This is Guna Anderson.
Oh, come up, Mrs. Anderson, come up, introduce yourself, please, to one of these microphones.
Yep.
Guna
Yes,
taught for
you'll-
years
you'll
in the
need
Needham
to
Public School
use the
System,
mic.
Needham High.
Oh, well, I don't need to use the mic. I was a teacher.
Well, the good
I
news
was a
also, so
tea-
people, actually, this is being recorded as well, so it's for that
Oh,
reason we
all right.
use the
Well,
mic.
then.
So
Yes, my
please your
name
name.
is Guna Svensson, and I have been part of the Needham community for 50, 60 years. I was a teacher at Needham High School for 38 years. And I'm still connected with the community, with my former students, and the life here. And I'm very proud and very happy for the community of Needham that this kind of this kind of a studio, this opportunity for kids who love to dance. I also used to choreograph the high school musicals. But this is a very, very meaningful and appropriate experience for kids, for students, because they learn not just that they're going to be performing, but they really learn about teamwork, they learn about cooperation, they learn discipline. And I think that that's a very, very important support adjunct to the education that Needham can provide. So it's very important, and I think this consideration of these few parking spaces and how that's going to affect the community, I don't think it's going to create a problem. I think it's more of a benefit to the community. So that's all I
Well, I
have to
appreciate you
say.
saying, I have one quick question. So if you had a chance to observe the dancing and then the parking, have you had any issues that you've seen?
No, I haven't, and I have also been, to the studio, and I have not observed any issues with the parking. I think there is ample, because I don't see it overcrowded unless there's a recital, but the recital is not in the church, it's not even there.
Oh, that's an interesting point.
So-
So at some point, you probably do perform for a larger audience, and that's done elsewhere?
Yeah, at Babson. Yeah.
I'm glad you
Yeah,
clarified that.
So there's no conflicting issue.
Thank you for your
Could I
time.
have your
Okay.
address, please?
Yes, I am, right now, I am living in Newton, Massachusetts.
A quick question, are most of the students, all the students from Needham?
Large majority, I would say probably 70–80%.
And how about the other students, where
Would you
they
like
coming
my
from?
street
Some of them
address?
like
Okay.
Newton, Dedham,
We've got Wellesley,
Medfield.
Westwood.
yeah. I mean, it's
Okay.
mainly Needham, but there are some sprinkled in.
Okay, excellent. Okay, is there anybody in the audience on Zoom that would like to say anything?
We have there's one hand raised. I'll go
Okay.
ahead and,
So this is, as you see, both live and on Zoom.
Multimodal.
Hi all, can you hear me?
Hi, Jenna. Yes, can't see you.
I promoted her as all right,
A panelist.
there she is, she's a panelist.
Hi, Jenna, good evening. Can you identify yourself, please?
Hi all, my name is Jenna Harrington. You can hear me okay?
A little bit louder if you could, please.
Let's see here. Is that better for you?
Slightly.
Okay, we'll try that. I have kiddos in the background. I'm a Needham High School graduate from 2005, and I have two daughters who dance at the studio. So I thought it might be helpful for you to briefly hear. So I have one child who dances on the weekdays and one on the weekends. They absolutely love dancing with Alicia and Gemma, and we have no issues with parking. We use the lot, the available lots, and walk them over. They're both young. I have a 7-year-old and a 3-year-old. We bring them into the studio and back and have no issues. And I know they also, Gemma and Alicia, do a fantastic job communicating with the community, including encouraging people not to park on Rosemary Street. That is very clear as a member of the studio. So getting some feedback. So hopefully you could hear that, but I wanted to just offer a few comments for you.
Could I have your address, Jenna?
Yes, I live on 91 Winding River Road in Needham, Massachusetts. We're finishing construction on our home, so we are temporarily just over the line in Natick, living with my parents, who are also longtime Needham
Well,
residents.
thank you very much. I appreciate your insightful comments, and it sounds like the two children are enjoying it and that the parking is working out well.
It is.
Thank
It
you.
is. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jenna.
Okay, so let me just read, if I may, the comments from other town officials. And this is from the church saying you have the right to use their facility. The town engineer has no comment. And the fire department has no comment. That's good, by the way. The public health division has no comment. And police have no comment. And George is in favor. George Good is in favor. Okay. Okay, so let's,
We
well,
also
the planning
have,
board, thank you. And then the planning board weighed in with no comment as well, thank you.
and the building department.
And the building department also had no comment. So that the the proposal appears to be acceptable. But let's hear from board members.
So clearly, you guys have been operating there for about 6 years, and I take note, the building commissioner noted that there have been no complaints about this office. I do remember the ACE, I think that's what they were. I know the intersection well. I walk around this town 3 to 5 miles every day. I've almost been hit at that intersection.
That's
I'm
why it
6
looks
foot
so
4. So I'm in support of you guys continuing to do what you do. I don't have daughters, so I wouldn't be there, but
You can go yourself.
I'm very, I could. I just really want to put an emphasis on the fact that you have to have policies in place to make sure children are being escorted across that street, because it is one of the busiest intersections around. So keep up the good work, but it's imperative that you have policies in place, because I can't live with myself if anything happened to a kid trying to cross that street. And I'm sure it's the same with you guys.
Thank you. And Peter?
Yeah, no, I think it sounds,
Oh, yeah. Oh, sure. Actually, we can't hear, so please, if you don't mind, take a microphone and identify yourself, please. Thank you.
I'm Kevin Riley, I'm Alicia's mother, and
Okay, hopefully,
Jim is
you're
my
not opposed to
grandmother.
this, are you?
Pardon me?
You're not opposed to this petition, are you? No,
No,
okay.
I'm not.
Okay.
I just, does the one-way street come into play at all to make
Coming
this,
by-
it doesn't?
No, I mean, I think that we don't want people going the wrong way down that street.
Yep.
And George will oversee that, I'm sure. But no.
And, or what will come in after, if they're forced to leave?
Yeah, no, I appreciate the concern. I think that this has been presented well. I think that there's been no complaints, that all the folks in the town officials have no comment, which is a good thing, so, but I appreciate your support for your family here.
Oh, thank you.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thanks, Mom.
Okay, thank you. So, at this,
Howard,
Yes.
there was one other comment that was received, I don't know.
Oh,
if
thank you. Wanna
read
read that?
into the, David Kriska, who is in support of,
he's in support. Okay, thank you. All right, this time, we would entertain a motion on this request.
I'll put a motion forward to approve the applicant's special permit application under section 3.2.1 and 5.115, waiving strict adherence with the off-street parking requirements of 5.12 and 5.13.
So would you entertain a proviso that the organization must maintain a written policy regarding pickup and drop-off?
Yes.
That provides some safety features that would be given to the parents?
Yes, I would.
Okay. And would you second that motion?
yeah, I guess I would add to it if Mr. If you're amenable to it, that we're talking about a maximum of 40 students and 4 staff. Now, I understand the hours during the summer are different, but if it's a smaller number of students, I don't think we really need to get too wound up about that. Hours during the school year, however, I think probably makes sense to articulate. Weekdays 3 to 9:30 and Saturdays 9 to 4:45, if that works. So subject to those conditions, I would second them.
Sure, I think that's a great suggestion to put in the hours of operation. So as in the application, it's 3 PM through 9:30 PM during the week, and 9 AM to 4:45 on Saturdays with no Sundays.
Right.
Okay, and that works for the team? Okay. And also a limit to the number of students? Was that part of your?
Yeah, max of 40.
And a max staff of 4?
Yeah.
Okay. And is that acceptable to you?
Acceptable for me.
Okay. All right, so at that point, all in favor of this motion, say aye.
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 And just want to be clarified for the record, we have seconded that motion as well, correct? There was a second?
Yes, I
to-
seconded
okay.
it.
And all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Congratulations. You should be getting a written decision within a month or so. And, okay, thank you for your support back there. Are you all graduates of the program? No, okay. Okay.
make sure that you sign in if you didn't. Thank you.
Okay, good luck. Okay. Nice to meet you. Thank you, ladies. Thank you. Okay, so we're now on to the next order of business. Okay, this is the a petition of Arias Ballet at 858 Great Plain Avenue for a special permit and other private school use under 321 to waive strict adherence to the number of parking and the parking design under the 5115 and 512 and 513 in the Baptist Church, and that's located in the single residence B district. Oh, whoops. Oh, no, that's okay, thank you, thank you.
Take
thank
your
you.
time, take your time.
Hopefully George didn't trip you in that. George, you have a client with you tonight on this one?
I believe maybe joining via Zoom,
Okay.
unfortunately. My eyes are not that good, so, but Vanya Sager, who's the principal, who's one of the principals, should be joining on this. If not, I'll venture over.
Christopher Collins, Doug Wallace, and Jeff Grant.
Are they outside?
Are those,
There's
are
some
you
people out here.
Those
with
in?
the ballot?
Good evening, folks. Are you here for the ballet? Yes. Nice to see you. Come on in, come on in. Nice to see you. We're just talking about you.
Can I have a seat?
Okay. Good evening, good evening. So we just formally introduced the petition. Welcome. And we're eager to hear about the petition and then the requested waivers. Good evening, Mr. Baker. Please proceed.
Good evening. Once again, George Genta Jr. on behalf of the applicant, Arias Ballet. And this is not vastly dissimilar from the previous application. This is a dance school. It's a different type of dance school, but it's a dance school that's been operating out of the Baptist Church, which is at 858 Great Plain Avenue, for about a year. So not quite as long, but for about a year. And it was kind of a similar thing where nobody probably realized that permits were required because it's, again, it's a quasi-educational use in a Dover Amendment building. But lo and behold, they had some conversations with the building department and discovered, oh, supposed to have permits, so here we are, going through the process.
So George, you said similar but different. So how is it different? What is the type of dancing?
So this is more of a, well,
We want to hear Jordan.
No, would you like, so why don't you tell us? Good evening.
Good evening.
If you could just state your name for the record?
Yes,
Thank
my
you.
name is Vanya Sagar, and my partner and I, Paolo Rice,
Nice. Good evening.
are the founders of Arise Ballet. So we are a ballet-focused studio and a very serious ballet-focused studio, a lot less recreational. We cater more toward the students that are very seriously interested in pursuing ballet, some as a career and some as seriously dancing through even their college careers. That said, we have younger students as well, but all students that are very invested in ballet. We don't have any additional art forms that we offer. We have a little bit of contemporary that goes very, very well with that, but we're primarily focused on ballet. And Paolo was a 12-year principal dancer at Boston Ballet, just retired 2 years ago. He was trained at the Royal Ballet in London as well as the Paris Opera, so he's graduated from
You
those
seem
schools.
very young to have retired.
Ballet's having your body, I would say. Yeah.
Started very young, and now it's time to give back and invest in the young students and in the community. So that's what we focus on, and we're very excited to be able to offer these.
That's great. So how many students do you typically have per class or per day or?
So what we do is focus on having smaller classes so we can have a lot of individualized attention and take a much more holistic approach toward the ballet education, focusing on technique, focusing on spatial awareness, focusing on artistry, on self-expression, and kind of the whole development of a student. So we have anywhere between 4 or 5 kids in the class to our biggest class being a combined class of around 20 students, we don't have the big classes very often. For the most part, our classes are around 10-ish. Can go a little lower and a little higher.
And are the students, what's their age approximately, and then where are they coming from?
Good question. We have as young as 4, and our students that are the pre-professional students are as old as 19. We are more of a destination school, and the students that come to us come from anywhere of the immediate vicinity to Arlington, Lexington, Belmont, Cambridge, Boston. We have a few kids from New Hampshire, Rhode Island, Western Mass. We have somebody driving from East Hampton 4 times a week. We have kids from Worcester, Westford. We try to look at and see where our catchment area is, but really we have a very big radius because of the type of
Your
education
specialty, for sure.
we
Okay.
offer. Yeah, there is not something that's quite like us in the area. We knew there was a gap in this type of education and a need for it. Paul, if you want to add something, please.
And also the vision of the school is to bridge the Boston area to all the institutions I've been throughout my career. And we've had guest teachers from the Royal Ballet come already.
The Royal, the
The
England?
Royal Ballet of England, yeah. She's Bostonian, Sarah Lamb. She grew up in Brookline.
Oh, wow.
But it's my alliances throughout my career that I'm able to bring now, so the kids have exposure to that type of training.
That's
And it's very
fabulous.
specified. It's not easy.
Well, that's great. Well, thank you for getting into that level of detail. It is quite different from the other. All right, Mr. Gunter, why don't you continue with the parking?
All right, so that's, so the use itself is not problematic, it's very easily approvable. There's no special conditions in the bylaw with respect to the use, so the issue really is parking. The Baptist Church does have a handful of parking spaces sort of around the corner off of Warren Street. However, none of those spaces are available to the dance school. They don't get to use those at all. So for this use, they effectively have 0 on-site parking. So basically, we have to look at it that even one parking space needs a waiver. So they absolutely need a parking waiver. Now, the question is, of course, what size of waiver? So the same standard would apply here, because it's the same type of thing where it's primarily a drop-off, pickup type of an activity. So applying that, the standard for drop-off, pick-off, after-school, daycare, all that kind of catch-all category of 1 parking space for 5 students plus 1 per employee. Their largest class right now is 23 students. You heard Vanya say around 20, right? Right now, the largest is 23. For parking calculation, I actually bumped that up to 25, just as a round figure. Also because it's 1 for every 5, so it makes the math a lot easier. So at 25, plus a maximum of 3 staff, you wind up with a total parking demand of 8 spaces.
Can I stop you there? Not that it will affect the result, but just when I looked at the Exhibit A that you attached with the class schedule, theoretically, there's some period on Sunday when there's 42 students there. So it just
Overlapping the
increases the
classes.
number of spaces you're asking for a waiver.
Oh, right.
Yeah, again, I don't expect it to affect the
Significantly,
outcome,
yeah.
but just so that we're accurate now.
So how does that work on Sundays? It's 9 to 3, 20 intermediate, 9, what is numbers? To 20 total? Oh, they have different,
Yeah,
so
there's
you have
2
22
different
and 20?
classes that
Yeah,
are
yeah,
Yep.
yeah, yeah.
that are going on.
There's a couple of different studios. so
And
class
there's some
studios
overlap.
and
Okay, good point, good point. So, yeah, so it sounds like it could be up to 42.
Yeah.
And what if the 45 and 46 wanted to join? It's gonna be a limit to the number of students?
So probably would make sense to put a top limit on.
A higher number, yeah.
Yep, yeah, as the higher number. But sort of it almost, in some ways, where there's no parking at all available on site, whether it's, whether it's 8 spaces or 18 spaces, it's still, we need the waiver.
Yeah.
Also,
Yes.
one of the advantages of this location is, there is on-street parking available on both sides of Great Plain Avenue. On one side of Pickering Street, which is literally across the street and not even a 2-minute walk probably. And then there's the municipal parking lot off of Dedham Avenue, which is actually within like a 5-minute walk right around the corner. So this location has access to a lot of parking, and if you've ever driven down Great Plain Avenue, you know, a lot of those on-street spaces in the afternoon tend to be available. There's not a huge demand for the on-street parking, especially down that end. Obviously, in the, you know, right in the commercial, between the two commercial buildings, those spaces are often filled. But once you get past that, past where, you know, basically in front of the old Hillcrest and beyond, every time I usually, when I go in the afternoon, there's usually only 2 or 3 cars parked in those spaces.
And also, they have lots of field activities at Greenfield where people come and park, and there's obviously a tremendous amount of parking around there.
Yes,
And isn't this across the street from Greenfield?
sort of, yeah, diagonally.
Yeah, but close, very close.
Yep.
by. You know, so the area can accommodate a lot of parking.
Yes.
How about issues of safety of parents dropping off the kids across the street? How do you try to deal with that to prevent accidents?
Well, so this, unlike the other location where everybody has to park across the street and then walk across the busy street, in this location, you have a lot of parking on the same side of Great Plain Avenue, and even the municipal parking lot is on the same side of Great Plain Avenue. So a tremendous amount of the cars parking we would expect would be on the same side. So you don't have that same sort of inherent situation where you have to be mindful of crossing the busy street. And I would think actually most of the pickup and drop off is gonna be utilizing those spaces. And you probably would find more of the older or adults that take classes would be the ones more likely to park, for example, on Pickering or, you know, further down Great Plain.
So when the parent drops off their young child, is it 3 or 4, something like that? So what kind of a process do you have to create safety?
The youngest students we have are the fewest students we have. We have a handful of 4 or 5-year-olds, literally a handful, 4 or 5 kids, those that are youngest class. So those are the kids where you would see the parents park mostly behind the CVS in the municipal lot and walk over. There's also, as George said, on Warren Street is where normally parents try to park. That's on the same side of the church. And I know officially there's no parking spaces at the church, but there's nobody that parks in that parking lot. The parking lot is almost always empty.
Is this church still active as a church?
No.
Okay.
It's not.
No, they actually ceased worship operations a few years back. And I believe, I'm not sure if the full ownership or just management, but it's been transferred to Baptist Church out of, I think, Jamaica Plain.
Yeah. So there is a small congregational church that rents space from the now Baptist Church of JP. Didn't change the name just for the community's sake, but that's who owns it. So they rent space there, but they're only there during, I think, some times that they worship and
On
not during
Sundays.
the week, maybe on Sundays, yeah. And I think also during not early in the morning, somewhat around noonish, I'm not sure when they start, but maybe they have an 11 to 12 service or something like that.
Are you the only tenant in the building?
They are the congregational church that rents, and we are the only ones. There is a daycare that's on the other side. I think the daycare is leaving maybe next,
Is that Tobin
you
Baudet?
guys have been.
We know about that
Yeah,
day.
that-
We're moving to a larger facility, we hear.
That's what we've
Oh, that
heard. I know that the town's very aware of the danger.
Different part of town.
So we've never had any issues with safety. The parents walk the kids. The older kids are usually dropped off on the side or on the same side of the street. As George said, there's lots of parking spots that are never right across from the YMCA.
Yep.
Never full. And most of the parents don't come inside because it's the.
George, at some point, weren't some of the municipal spots, the metered spots in front, permit only
Until 3 p.m.
in the front, right?
Yes, they're marked in yellow and they're permit only, but until 3 p.m.
Told you I walk this town a lot.
I guess so.
Okay, so Daphne, is there anyone on the Zoom that would like to participate with us tonight on this?
We have no hand, oh, there goes the hand raised. Let me go ahead and promote them to a panelist. The Christopher Thomas. Christopher Thomas.
Christopher Thomas. Okay.
Christopher Thomas. promoted.
Hi, Mr. Thomas.
This, I don't know. Oh, there, let's just go ahead and try that again. Promote sheet. All right. All right, we have Christopher Thomas.
Hi, Mr. Thomas, can you hear us?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes. Good
Great.
evening, and thank you for participating. Where are you from, sir?
I live in Needham on 130 Warren Street, so right across from the Baptist Church.
Okay.
And
Thank you
Chris
for
Thomas.
participating.
Yeah, I just wanted to mention, and I understand this, the dance studio's been there for a while. I just wanted to talk a little about the parking on Warren Street. That's a, and I guess you're already parking there, but that's a street that there's plenty of parking and that's fine to, when people park there, but it's not very wide. And what I wanted to suggest, since you're gonna waive the parking, at the end of Warren Street where it hits Great Plain, there's a little section which says no parking from here to Connor. I would ask you to consider moving that a little farther from Great Plain. People come around off of Great Plain onto Warren, and then because the street isn't wide enough and it's two ways, they have to stop there if a car's coming the other way, and it gets a little bit dangerous. So if we're going to allow parking like this along there, I think that might be a safety measure that you could do that would help a little bit, especially if we're going to have people staying there the whole time. The only other thing about Warren Street, it's the only street off the town that doesn't have all-day parking allowed. And so a lot of times there's cars parked there all day, and that also crowds it. So I just would like I'm not against the proposal, and you guys have been there for a while, and but it's just, I think at least the town should consider the fact that more and more cars are now parking on Warren, and it's pretty tough to go both ways when cars are coming down there. So I just wanted to make those comments.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, there is a commission, it's called the TMAC, the Transportation Advisory Committee, and if you want to change a permit parking stretch, that needs to be taken to that particular committee.
So in other words, sir, that we don't have the jurisdiction to modify street signs, but your point's well taken, and Daphne's point as well, that you should follow up with that commission. I think you'll get the best results, explain to them what's going
But
on.
if you're going to change the parking permit thing, don't you take that into account?
No, in this instance, we don't have jurisdiction over moving signs, but we'll consider, deliberate over the parking and see what restrictions might be appropriate. But thank you, sir, we appreciate you participating.
Great, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
One thing I want to add is literally none of our parents stay there all day. Most of them just drop off, or they go shopping, or they go to a cafe or a restaurant.
Good for town business, I hear you, okay.
It's very good for town business because our classes are normally pretty long. They're never 45 minutes or an hour. They're like 2 hours or 3 hours, on the weekends 4 hours. So it's bringing a lot of.
No, it sounds like a wonderful use. I just want to read into the records comments from town officials. The building department has, he's focused on the parking issues, but otherwise has no comments. Fire department has no comments. The police also have no comment. No comment from the town engineer. And public health has no comments. So in other words, that, the planning, okay, thank you, give me a second. And the planning board likes to weigh in also with no comments. Okay, so that means that there's nothing here that ruffles any feathers. The parking is the issue. Let's hear if we can hear from the board and what your thoughts are. Peter, you want to go first this time?
Yeah, I don't have any issue with the parking. It sounds like a great program. I'm not aware of any particular parking issues. Obviously, that area is in flux, given what might or might not happen with the church, what might or might not happen with Hillcrest Gardens, but we'll deal with that if and when those happen. So for now, it sounds like it all works. So I think it sounds like a great program. I frankly had never heard of it, but it sounds great.
It is,
Yeah.
Sounds like you guys are a great addition to our town. Sounds like you've been operating there. It is on the outer edge of the commercial heart of town, there's parking lots galore, Warren Street has parking. I have no objection. No further comments or questions.
So did you ever put on a performance for the town?
Actually, it's interesting you ask. I was choreographing the first original Nutcracker, his choreography and directing it. And we would be happy to, in some way, perform in the town. We're gonna perform it on the Regis College stage in December. But we're happy to showcase what.
No, because it seems like that what you do is at a higher level.
Yes.
And with your backgrounds, and it might have some interest. So it's a win-win. I would entertain a motion on this request and highlight that we should consider limits to the number of students at any one time and the faculty, as well as the business operations. And by the way, you can come back if things are going well and there's no opposition to make this bigger and broader. But just to get, I know Mr. Gunter's did a good job to explain his analysis with a certain number of spaces and so on. So at that point, I'll open up for a motion. Peter?
You're all gonna look at me. Well, I move that we issue a special permit under section 3.2.1 to allow this operation as a private school, and that we issue a special permit under, I think it's 515, to waive the number of required parking spaces under 512. Subject to a couple of conditions, that the maximum number of students at any one time be limited to 45, that the maximum number of staff at any one time be limited to 3, and that the operating hours be limited to 9 a.m. to 9 p.m.
Does that work for you folks? The hours of operation?
Yeah,
Okay.
that works.
I'll second that motion.
Thank you. And all in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Congratulations. Okay.
Congratulations.
Thank
Good
you.
luck.
Thank you.
I was gonna say, good luck on the opening, but I guess you've been open. Okay. Thank you, and good luck.
By the way, I'm a Needham resident too. I've been living in Needham for the last 16 years, so I'm really glad that we're able to be here.
Do your
in
kids
my town.
participate in this program?
My daughter does, yes,
Great.
yes.
No, so that there's definitely, cultural interest and, how to go about it, I'm not sure, but, because people might want to get this ballet, these young kids ballet, it might be quite a moving experience. And it sounds like it's a positive addition to the town, so thank you so much. Good luck.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Okay, thank you, and so okay. So the next order of business is the 378 Manning Street, the Driftwood Landing LLC special permit. George, you here on that one?
No, I'm not.
Okay, and so there's a note here for continuance. Daphne, so how'd that come through? That was just a written request?
That was in your packet before, and we received a letter requesting that this item be continued to the next month.
Okay, so I guess we'll, if you have to take a vote, is there
Put a motion, continue it.
a second in that?
Second.
Okay, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Okay, so we'll continue this one to next week,
Next month.
Month.
The continuance will be on November 20th at the next CBA meeting, and I'll go ahead and schedule that at 7:30, but after 37 Mosley, so it'll be the number 1 and 2. No, we should,
I think we should schedule that for 8:30.
okay.
In case the Mosley gets continued again, who knows what, so
Yeah.
maybe at 8? Or
So, 8 o'clock would be fine. Yeah, we'll just go ahead and schedule it for 8 PM. There are 2 other items coming up that I know of.
Okay, thank you. All right, so in addition, we have a informal matter, 1101 Highland Avenue. The Norfolk Lodge seeks a continuation of the special permit for the sale and storage of Christmas trees and related items in the parking lot at 1101 Highland Avenue. And is there anyone here in that matter?
No,
Live
that's
or
just a
Zoom?
standard,
Okay.
it's a standard formality that comes in as an informational item every year, at least for the last 8 years. but it was, the special permit was, when was it? It was a long time, that you
90s,
guys, in the
97.
90s, so they've been coming, this is a ritual where you come in and vote to allow them to do this during this holiday window, to sell holiday goods. And,
Do you happen to have the permit in front of you?
It's
yeah, it's
on their letter.
attached.
It's on their letter, yeah.
It's in your packet.
Okay, thank you. Okay, thank you.
Second page.
Okay, so just reading from the request from the Norfolk Lodge that they'll obtain the necessary permit from the Needham Fire Department for the storage of the Christmas items, that the hours of operations will continue to be 7 days a week from November 16th through December 24th, and the hours of operation are Monday through Friday from 3 p.m. to 9 p.m., and on Saturdays from 9 to 6 p.m., and on Sunday 12 to 6. And in order to renew, we must show evidence of the continued permission to use the parking lot owned by the Christ Episcopal Church, which is situated across the street. And then attached is the letter from the church indicating that they are in favor of this and that they're giving their permission for this to continue, this nice tradition since 1997. Is there a formal motion?
I'll put a motion to continue the special permit granted on October 16th, 1997 to allow the storage of Christmas trees and related items in the parking lot at 1101 Highland Ave by the Norfolk Lodge AF and AM.
Fair enough, thank you. Is there a second to that?
Second.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, okay, good luck with the sales. We hope they're brisk.
And then, there's the letter to sign, Mr. Chair, in your folder. All right, so you need to,
So in the absence of any comments, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Seconded?
Second.
In favor?
Aye.
Aye, okay, thank you all. Thank you, and this meeting is adjourned. Thank you for participating. So we will-
Restaurant, the guy stayed there, they're ripping them down, saying, you look to the side. And the Greeks come outside, like, I'm sorry. Excuse me, this is an Israeli fine, it's a Hilo restaurant.